welcome to this new TechCaptains episode. So today with Gareth, we welcome Krishna Rapuru, who's engineering manager at Deliveroo, the online food delivery company very popular in Europe, similar to DoorDash in the US or Uber Eats more globally. So Krishna, welcome and thank you for joining this TechCaptains episode. And to start, I will ask you, can you tell us what you're doing as an engineering manager?
Sure. Thanks, Ron, firstly, and Gareth for having me. It's really a pleasure to be here. Before I go into what I do as an engineering manager, I just wanted to quickly introduce who I am so that I'll have like a better picture.
Yeah,
Um,
please do.
yeah, cool. So basically, after my bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from not widely popular university in India, I moved to UK. After I moved to UK, I started my career as a software developer with a startup in London company called Meganexus. So at Meganexus, I explored different roles because as a startup, you can expose to multiple roles. I really find a really joy in developing innovative software solutions for the criminal justice and healthcare solutions. And later, I've joined Medidata. It's a popular US based company. I was really thrilled by the chance to apply my skills to help the others. I actively contributed to the development and implementation of scalable drug trial platform.
Mm-hmm.
During COVID, Moderna was one of our customers to trial the COVID drugs, which was successfully facilitating now approximately 30,000 trials. It was a huge platform. Very proud of that.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, after that, recognizing my passion for technology and the leadership, a couple of leaders inspired me to become an engineering manager. Since then, I've been guiding engineers to realize their strengths, passion, and purposes, fostering their career growth. Um, Following my experience at Medidata, my focus slightly shift to Deliveroo during pandemic. Deliveroo is the leading online food delivery platform in the UK, not only in UK, so we operated in multiple markets. Um, I've joined Deliveroo during the period of rapid expansion, where numerous
Mm-hmm.
opportunities for me to utilize my expertise and contribute to the expansion of various teams. So, throughout my career, I have gained expertise in diverse technologies. Technology is my utmost passion, and I enjoy building teams and learning leadership every day. So, now going back to your question, Ron, so what I do as an engineering manager. So,
Yes.
engineering manager has multiple responsibilities. I can talk about specifically on Deliveroo how engineering manager operates. So we got a people management responsibilities. Of course, we have to help our engineers to grow in their career, make sure they have enough opportunities, both like product development and also outside the product. So that's one main big responsibility. And also the technology. So making sure we're giving right guidance for engineers and
Yes.
keep up to date with the technology and sharing our solutions and thought process for engineers so that they can able to make right decisions, things like that. And lastly, acting as a business technologist, things like bridging the um, a gap between the product or non-technical people and the technical people, having the right information from both sides and delivering the correct communications and things like that. So yeah, this is a multiple responsibilities as an engineering manager.
I see. And do you feel that you still like technically connected, or because you mentioned some technical guidance, but what does that really
Yeah,
mean?
so right question. So I definitely not am hands-on. When I say hands-on, not into the code
Yeah.
development, writing code with engineers or reviewing pull requests and things like that. I came far from that. So we only, yeah, at least in Deliveroo, only give the guidance in terms of looking after architecture solutions, and we call it as technical design docs. We always review whatever the team produces, even outside the team, to make sure we're having the right, I mean, engineers thinking in different aspects, things like that. So we involve more like design aspects in terms of the solutions rather than coding angle. So, yeah.
Yeah, I was wondering. So at Deliveroo, what does the engineering structure look like? So obviously you've got mobile apps, you've got a website, you've essentially got three users, right? Because you've got restaurants, you've got people buying the food, you've got so how do you structure building all of these components?
Yeah, it's a three-sided market, yeah, as you rightly mentioned. So we
Mm.
got consumers, customers, what we call it as, and riders and the restaurants. We have like a groups. It's not only like product faced groups, we also have platform like who is looking after the infrastructure behind the scenes and things like that. So we have multiple areas, multiple groups. So each group has tiny areas. So consumer, I'm part of consumer group, and we got multiple areas. So we look after home and menus is like one area, and personalization elements is one area, and somebody looking after pricing is a separate area, and each area has multiple teams within each team. So we're looking after specific product elements. And each team is consists of cross-functional skill sets, so which is engineers, data scientists, designers, the product, and of course engineering managers. That's how we form a team. And we also collaborate with other groups whenever we need. We have like a quarterly plannings and yearly plannings, so we make sure information will be shared across all the groups wherever is the dependency and things like that.
So those teams that you're talking about, are those fully end to end? Those teams will deliver a feature fully end to end, will they?
That's right. So end to end.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so we, yeah, the teams will take care of end to end, but if there is a dependency, of course, we as like a microservice, we're moving towards microservice architecture. We got big monolithic. So in a microservice world, we can't do everything like end to end, right? So we definitely need some help from other teams as well. So during those, if we need some help from other teams, definitely we collaborate and making sure we deliver the feature with the right quality and right yeah, timelines, things like that.
I see. And Christian, like you speaking of the tech, so you said going from monoliths to microservices at the moment. What's the
um
monolith written in?
Yeah, sure. It's not at the moment. It was a long journey, so it
Okay.
started a while ago. So it takes a time, I think. So monolithic is written in Ruby on Rails.
Okay.
Yeah, so the microservices we're extracting from monolithic is writing in Go and some elements in Scala, but it's largely Go
I see.
is the tech stack.
I see. Do you know why that choice has been made? I suppose it was made before you joined, but do you have any idea why that choice was being made?
Yeah, sure. I definitely it's made before I joined. So I joined a couple of years before. Yeah, I joined 2021, I guess, if I remember correctly. Yeah. I think any organization, right, as we grow, we cannot scale with monolithic
Yeah.
applications. So that's the main reason why we wanted to extract and making sure our service is scalable for yeah, for the load and things like that, and also it's easy for development as we grow. In terms of the teams, it's much easier to collaborate and rather than stepping on each other's tone with one
Yes, yes,
large code
definitely.
base. So yeah, it's like multiple general advantages. So as yeah, Deliveroo also follow the same.
You operate, well, I think that I might be a bit behind, but I think I saw that you operate in 14 countries. And I'm just wondering then, what does your infrastructure
Yeah.
look like? I'm guessing you may have things deployed in some other areas, and therefore, what is the release process like behind that? Can you talk a bit through that?
Yeah, we do the continuous deployment and delivery and all those, best practices we call it as. In terms of infrastructure, we haven't geolocated at the moment. I don't know whether I can share this
Oh,
widely,
okay.
but yeah, it's we have our infrastructure in UKI regions. It's only one region, so we're serving through that. However, we are in the process of expanding that infrastructure in other zones, other regions as well. Hopefully, that will finish soon. So that project is undergoing.
Yeah. I mean, I have to say, I was playing with your app last night, and it
Hmm.
is really fast. It's really, really slick. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's really good.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
good to know. Yeah, so thanks for that. So we made a lot of investment recently in terms of latency and all those things. So yeah, really good to know.
And Krishna, I just want to bounce back on something you said into your intro. You said that some leaders you encountered inspired you to move to a more managerial role. And I want to
Yeah.
know, like, what did they say that inspired you? Because I think I've mentioned that in other Tech Captains podcasts, that some people see that, when you're a developer, becoming a manager is a natural progression, but it's a different job.
Yeah, for me, it was not natural for sure. So I didn't even think about coming to management chain, management path. So definitely a couple of leaders, they inspired me when I was in Medidata in my previous role. Um, so I still remember the words they mentioned. So when you are an IC, individual contributor, your impact may be limited, so only a particular area, particular vertical. Whereas if you move to management, so your impact will be wider through your people. You can make a lot of impact, and there is a lot of self satisfaction as well to see your people growing with your guidance and mentorship. um, that's really inspired me. I was really thought that initially I was like self-doubt, like, is it really for me? Or then they also assured me it's okay, you can try for 6 months. If it's not your thing, you can go back
Yeah,
to
yeah,
IC.
yeah.
There was no problem. So that's how I moved to management from
Oh,
IC.
that's interesting. And do you miss coding or not so much?
Initially, it was a horrible thing for me. Like, at least for 1 year, I struggled to balance like how I can take out my hands from coding.
Yeah.
But later, I used it. It's not like a drastic move
Yes.
from taking out that experience, but I gradually, eventually moved from coding to mainly looking after design and architectural aspects.
And can you talk a little bit about reliability engineering as well? Because I was looking, you have a really good blog on your website, right, with entries from various engineers at Deliveroo, and there's some quite interesting articles I read in there, and I saw something about reliability engineering, and obviously, again, being the nature of your business, how you're spread across so many countries, there must be a significant amount of work you guys do in terms of that. Can you maybe talk a little bit about that?
We are not officially called SRE as a separate team, but we have embedded within the platform. Um, so observability is the key thing for every company success, right? So we have, um, I think, for each service, before we before we going into the development phase, we have kind of checklist what are the things we need to do. We call it as a service readiness, so making sure all the monitors in place, all the metrics we're thinking for that service is aligned, things like that. So we put together, and we also iterate over every half a year, like making sure our service readiness docs or like information up to date, because it's not like writing in first place, just we need to make sure so we are really maintaining those very well. And as we grow in terms of a load for each service, whether our service is actually maintaining properly to handle that load and things like that. We also have auto scaling and other things for different aspects, but we also maintain all these things. Coming to the metrics, but each team has their own, keeping the service metrics, like the latency and error rate and all those things. We also have like a product related metrics for each team, where we need to look after like how we're performing for product related metrics as well. Things like the conversion rate from home to menu, right? So are we actually progressing as we progress on the load? Not only the service readiness metrics or service related metrics. So yeah, we are actually serious about all these metrics, and there is a lot of investment already put on this area, and also we're planning to put more as we grow as well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, a business like yours, downtime is very costly, right? So, if
Yes.
I'm an engineer working in one of your teams, do I get to push a feature into production? Can I push a feature as an engineer, or does someone else actually, make that happen? How does that work?
It's a continuous deployment, basically. So every day we're going to push
Yeah.
yeah, 4 or 5 commits from the tier 0. So that means, yeah, we are not like stopping any features to go, like doing manual things, is everything automatic. So if we are happy with the code and if we are happy with the feature, we go ahead and push to the production. So it's not like any manual things in between, it's everything automatic.
Even with continuous deployment, right? There's often checkpoints where there might be other engineers that are doing something in order for that push. So, I've been in places where we've had staging and pre-production and various different
Yeah.
environments, and as an engineer I can push through everything, but I can't do that final deployment into production that some other engineer does, that for various reasons, right?
Yes. Yes.
Sometimes it's just it is the way it is. So I'm guessing then are you using a lot of feature flags to turn things
We
on
do.
once they're in production? Yeah.
Yeah, we do
Okay.
use a lot of feature flags, and yeah, so everything is driven by feature flags. So if we have any feature is under development, we push the code behind the feature flag till the feature is ready, and then once everything is ready, we enable the feature flag. Even the feature flag is taken care by engineers. It's not like some
Nice.
special person is looking after. But yeah, so we make sure we give a lot of autonomy to engineers, and more like they can take the decisions and they drive the features, rather like we tell them what to do. So that's a kind of culture we have at Deliveroo.
No, that's very good.
Mm.
And I just want to switch a bit topics here, Krishna, is that we have a tradition in the podcast that
Hmm.
the guest introduces a book that they really enjoyed. And the one that you wanted to mention today is Start with Why from Simon Sinek. So I don't know if you can tell us more about why this choice and what that book is about.
Yeah, sure. I can talk about that book. But before I talk about book, I really inspired by Simon Sinek.
Okay.
I watched a lot of videos. It's not specifically to this book, but his videos really always inspired me whenever I listen. Um, the way he's talking about the corporate culture and what we should um, inbuilt within the team, the culture and mentality and the team collaborations and things like that. So I really, really love him. Yeah, so keeping my excitement on the Simon Sinek. But yeah, coming to the book, there are like few things it's mentioned in the book. So mainly to start with, why is the golden circle? How people usually think from what to why. So what, how, why. So after I read that book, my thought process completely changed. So um, there is a lot of good thing if you start thinking from why. So people always connect with why you why we do rather than what we do, right? So that's really good phrase, what I found so interesting. When we communicate inside out, we are directly communicating to people's brains. So when we communicate with why, so they can easily connect with you. Whereas when you communicate what and then how and then why, they can get it, but they don't connect. You know what I mean? So yeah, so that's really inspired, and it's not only for individuals. These books, it's really a lot of elements. It's for organizations to reevaluate their actual purpose and the values. It's really helpful to read. Any leaders, they wanted to rethink about organizations, how they can communicate. And also one other element which I really liked about the communication skills, this book is really offers guidance on effective communication and focusing on like emotional and motivational aspects of the messaging, rather just talking about what you wanted to talk, but adding that extra elements is really helpful to reach people's brain. Yeah, so there are a lot of good things, but these are like a main factors why I really like that book.
I understand. That's very interesting. That's very interesting to know. Yeah, it's a bit of a social media sensation online.
Yeah, yeah. And also, like whenever I watch his podcast, watch his videos, it's really, yeah, a lot of things I refresh, so in terms of the
Makes sense.
team building and things like
It's interesting. Obviously, so you grew up in India, then, did you? Is that where you grew up
that. I
originally? So you grew
did.
up in India. You went to university in India, and then you came to the UK. And obviously, we see a lot of people working in especially in the IT sector, right, with sort of Indian heritage or Southeast Asian heritage. And I've always wondered what I mean for you. What was that like culturally, growing up in India, going to university, and then moving to work, and now for at one of the biggest tech companies in Europe? How is that? How have you found that culturally? Has it been jarring? Has it been easy? What's it been like?
It was interesting, I would say.
Interesting.
Um,
Okay.
yeah, so growing in India, I came to Europe uh, without knowing any people. It was so much interesting. And also, after I moved to UK, I spent actually a good amount of time to understand culture and to understand how people are communicate, because where I came from, English was not main language. So uh, I I spent good amount of time to understand how the people talk, how they communicate, and what they look, when the communication and when we talk and things like that. Coming to the technology, right, and a lot of people are more yeah, into IT, especially South India. I think it was not before. When I was studying, actually not from computer science, but after I finished my graduation, there was a lot of um, excitement and boom in the computer science. At that time, I think um, chief minister from my state, he was actually um, putting a lot of investment to bring a lot of software companies in my state, so that actually helped a lot of people to move into the computer science. It doesn't matter what they studied, but they moved to computer science. So that was the main motivation. That's where you see a lot of people to computer science and moving to IT rather
Yeah, yeah.
like in different fields. That was the main reason. Yeah, but for me, is I was so um, happy to took the decision from electrical engineering to computer science, and working in different domains and working in different technologies. Um, Initially, I was struggled a bit because it's completely different domain from electrical engineering into computer science. But I spent good amount of time on the basics, the core thing to understand the data structure, understand the core concepts like why we have these different languages and what's the advantage and what's the functional programming, object oriented programming, things like that. So it's really helped, and I'm super happy for my decision to be into IT.
Okay. And I'm sure, I mean, for anybody who's watching this, who maybe is in, sat there in India, what piece of advice would you give them if, if they're thinking, well, I'd love to move to the UK and become a software manager or a CTO for a tech company in Europe? What was the one thing you would say to them?
Don't be scared. So yeah, you can do whatever you like to do. You can make the difference with skills what you have, yeah, and the talent you have. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. And are you using, so just going back to Deliveroo, obviously there's a big, this year especially, we've seen a big increase in interest in AI tools for coding. Are you using any of those sort of tools, Code Whisperer or Copilot? Are you using anything like that in Deliveroo?
Um, not officially yet.
Okay.
However, we did the hackathon recently with Gen AI related tools. There was like a lot of hype and at least the knowledge share what we have in the market. We actually assess what tools we can able to introduce for the developers' life easier. And also it comes with some baggage, right? So we need to evaluate carefully to introduce these tools. So we are in the process of evaluation, like so which tools are best for both the business and the developers and things like that. So it's not completely we started
Perfect,
using.
perfect. I mean, thank you, Krishna, for joining today the podcast. I hope it was a good experience,
Thank you so
Thanks,
much for
Krishna.
having me.
and for everyone listening, we will be back in 2 weeks with Gareth. Thank you.